What if the worst evening of your week became the night that changed your entire life? What if the person who finally made you believe in love again was standing right there, soaking wet at a broken bus stop, while you were 2 seconds away from just driving past? That is exactly what almost happened to Daniel. And honestly, the fact that he stopped that car is the only reason this story exists at all. Welcome back to Romantic Stories, the home of real love, messy love, unexpected love, the kind that does not come wrapped in a bow but hits you somewhere deep and does not let go. If you are new here, I am so glad you found us today. And if you have been here before, you already know we do not do fairy tales on this channel. We do truth. So stay with me until the very end of this one, because I promise you, the moment this story reaches its turning point, you are going to feel it in your chest. And if you have ever been broken by someone and then terrified to let the next person in, this story was written for you. Daniel was 33 years old. From the outside, he had everything together. Successful career, his own place, the kind of quiet discipline that made people around him say, "That man has his life figured out." But here is what they did not know. 6 months before this story begins, the woman he had planned to spend his life with sat down and sent him a message. Not a phone call, not a conversation, a message. 5 words. "I found someone else." 5 years. Gone in the time it takes to read 5 words. No warning. No signs he had caught. No conversation, no closure, no explanation that made any sense. Just a message and then silence. And Daniel was left sitting there holding 5 years of his life in his hands like something that had just shattered on the floor. Now here is what I want you to understand about Daniel after that moment. He did not fall apart loudly. He did not become bitter in an obvious way. He did not go out and make bad decisions or fill his evenings with noise. He went quiet. He simplified everything. Work, sleep, repeat. He stopped trusting, stopped opening up, stopped letting people close enough to hurt him. He built a life that was perfectly functional and completely empty, and he told himself that was fine, that this was just who he was now, focused, unbothered, done with all of it. And for 6 months, he genuinely believed that, until a Thursday evening in the rain changed everything. It had been a long day, the kind of day that sits heavy on your shoulders even after you leave the office. Daniel was driving home on near-empty roads, the rain coming down hard against his windshield, music low, mind somewhere between exhaustion and just that familiar quiet numbness. That is when he saw her, standing alone at a bus stop. The shelter was broken, half the roof caved in, giving her basically no cover at all. She was completely soaked, no umbrella, arms slightly crossed against the cold. And she was just standing there, still and patient like someone who was used to waiting. Daniel slowed down. He looked at her, and then, almost without thinking, he started to pull back into speed. Because that was who he had trained himself to be. Someone who did not get involved. Someone who kept moving. Someone who had learned the hard way that getting involved with strangers leads to things you are not ready for. But he stopped. Something made him stop. He still cannot fully explain what it was. Maybe it was the way she stood there without any drama. No waving, no desperation, just quietly enduring the rain. Maybe it was the look on her face when his headlights swept across her and she did not even flinch. Maybe it was just one of those moments the universe engineers for you and does not ask your permission about. He rolled down his window. "Do you need a ride?" She looked at him for a moment, cautious, measuring. Then she nodded. And just like that, without either of them knowing it, everything began to shift. Her name was Amara, 25 years old. Soft voice, calm presence. The kind of person who does not fill a room with noise, but whose stillness you somehow feel the moment they walk in. She got into the car quietly, closed the door gently, and said 2 words, "Thank you." And then they drove. For a while, neither of them spoke. And here is the thing about that silence. It was not uncomfortable. It was not the tense quiet of 2 strangers who do not know what to say. It was something else. Something that felt strangely like ease. After a few minutes, Daniel glanced over and asked, "Where are you coming from?" Amara looked out at the rain running down the passenger window. "Trying to start over." she said. That was it. No elaboration, no explanation. And Daniel did not ask for one, because those 3 words landed somewhere inside him that he had not let anything land in 6 months. He understood exactly what she meant, not because she explained it, but because he was living the same answer. He did not drive straight to her destination. He pulled into the parking lot of a small cafe just off the main road, warm light glowing through the windows, the kind of place that feels like a pause button. "Let's get you something warm first," he said. She looked at him, surprised, then nodded. And that night in that cafe became one of those rare, unrepeatable evenings that you look back on later and think, that was the night. That was the one. They talked for hours. About life. About the things that had not gone the way they planned. About the kind of pain that does not announce itself loudly but just quietly hollows you out. About what starting over actually feels like when you are in the middle of it and nobody can see it but you. Amara had her own story, her own closed doors, her own reasons for standing alone in the rain that evening. And Daniel listened, really listened, not to respond, not to fix anything, just to hear her. And she listened to him the same way. For the first time in 6 months, Daniel felt something that was not numbness, not anger, not the hollow quiet he had gotten so used to living inside. He felt something lighter, something that, if he was being honest with himself, felt a lot like hope. Now I need to stop here for a second and ask you something directly. Have you ever had a conversation with someone, a stranger or someone you barely knew, and walked away feeling more understood than you have felt in months? That is what this was. Drop a heart in the comments right now if you have had a moment like that, because I have a feeling a lot of you have. Days turned into weeks. They kept seeing each other. Not in a grand, planned, this is officially something kind of way. Just naturally, the way real connections actually grow. Late night drives with no particular destination. Random conversations that started about nothing and somehow ended up being about everything. Long stretches of comfortable silence in each other's company that felt better than most conversations. Amara never pushed him. She never asked him to be more than he was ready to be. She never showed up with a list of emotional demands or a timeline for where things were supposed to go. She just understood him. And that was exactly what made it different from anything Daniel had felt in a long time. Because the woman who had broken him had needed him to perform, to be a certain version of himself, to fit a shape she had already decided on. Amara just wanted him to be real. And slowly, quietly, without even fully realizing it was happening, Daniel started opening again. Small things at first. A text he sent without overthinking it. A laugh he let out without catching himself. A moment where he reached for her hand and did not pull back. Small things, but to Daniel, each one felt enormous. And then, because love is never a straight line, he got scared. This is the part that is so human it hurts. Because Daniel was not pulling away because he did not care. He was pulling away because he cared too much and had absolutely no idea what to do with that. He started replying late, canceling plans with excuses that were thin, and both of them knew it. Creating distance, not dramatically, not obviously, just slowly adding space between them like he was trying to make it easier for something that had not even happened yet. Because in his head, it was already happening. What if this ends the same way? That question lived in him like a constant, low hum. What if he lets her in completely and she leaves? What if he builds something real and it gets taken away again? What if the only way to protect himself is to never fully arrive? So instead of facing that fear, instead of saying it out loud to her or even to himself, he did what hurt people do. He ran. Quietly and slowly, but he ran. Here is the part that I want every single person watching this to pay attention to. Because this right here, this is not just Daniel's story. This is the story of every person who has ever been genuinely hurt in love and then met someone good and still found a way to self-sabotage. Still found a way to create the ending they were afraid of before it had a chance to become something else. How many of you have done exactly this? Be honest. You met someone good, someone who was actually treating you right, and something inside you, that old, scared, once burned part of you, started looking for the exit before the door had even fully opened. I am not judging. I am asking because it is real. Comment below. Tell me, Have you ever pushed away someone who genuinely cared about you because you were afraid? Because this comment section is about to get very honest, and I think you know it. One evening, Amara sat across from him, and she asked the question she had been holding for weeks. Why do you act like I matter to you, and then disappear? Daniel went quiet, not because he did not have the answer, but because the answer was too honest, too vulnerable, too much to say out loud to someone he had not yet decided to fully trust. So instead of saying it, he said nothing. And instead of staying with the silence, he let her walk away. The days that followed were different from everything Daniel had felt since his breakup. For 6 months, he had felt numb. And numbing pain, as awful as it is, becomes familiar. You adjust to it. You organize your life around it. But this was not numb. This was loss. Active, present, sitting right next to you loss. Because Amara had not hurt him. She had not betrayed him. She had not sent him a message and disappeared. She had shown up quietly and consistently, and been exactly who she said she was. And he had pushed her away. Not because of anything she did. Because of someone who was no longer even in his life. He was punishing a woman who had never hurt him for the wounds that someone else left behind. And the moment that truth settled into him fully, really settled, Daniel did something he had not done in 6 months. He listened to his heart instead of his fear. He showed up at her door. No rehearsed speech. No pride protecting him. No ego standing between him and the truth. Just him. At her door. With nothing to offer except honesty. I do not know how to love perfectly right now, he said. I am still figuring out how to trust again. I know I have been pulling away and I know it was not fair to you. But I do not want to lose you because of pain that someone else caused. I do not want to keep punishing you for something you never did. Amara stood in the doorway and looked at him for a long moment. And then she asked the only question that mattered. But are you willing to try? He nodded. No hesitation. No conditions. Just yes. And in that quiet doorway on an ordinary evening, 2 imperfect people made a choice. Not to be perfect. Not to have it all figured out. Not to guarantee each other that nothing would ever go wrong. Just to try. To choose each other not because everything was easy, but because what they had was real. And sometimes that is enough. Sometimes that is everything. Now here is the question I want to leave you with tonight, and I want you to be honest with yourself when you answer it. Is there someone in your life right now, or someone you pushed away, who deserved better from you than what your fear allowed you to give? Because Daniel's story is not just a love story. It is a mirror. And not everyone who watches this is going to be comfortable with what they see in it. The controversial truth? Most people do not lose love because they are not loved enough. They lose it because they are too scared to let themselves be loved at all. Tell me what you think in the comments. Do you think Daniel deserved that second chance? And more importantly, do you think people who pull away because of past pain deserve patience? Or does there come a point where enough is enough? I genuinely want to know where you stand. This comment section is going to be a real conversation tonight, and I want you in it. And if this story moved you, if any part of it felt familiar, if Daniel's fear or Amara's patience or that quiet moment at the door hit something real inside you, then you are exactly who this channel was made for. Hit that subscribe button right now and turn on your notifications because we have more stories coming that are going to reach into your chest and remind you why love, even the complicated, scary, imperfect kind, is still the most important thing we do as human beings. You do not want to miss what is coming next. Because sometimes the right person does not arrive at the perfect time. They arrive on a rainy Thursday evening at a broken bus stop. And everything depends on whether or not you slow down.